Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping here at the Hollywood Museum in the historic Max Factor building, and I'm with award-winning composer Allee Willis and filmmaker Walter Dominguez. I have Allee Willis, a Detroit native, a graduate of the University of Wisconsin, a Grammy, Tony, Emmy, and Webby award winner, a person nominated for her work as a songwriter, performer, artist, director, collector, composer, conductor, museum founder, and party thrower.
Yes.
Okay. So I only have 15 minutes. Where do I start? Remember when Andy used to say, oh, let's do this 15 minutes, and he made me start this show?
Yeah.
So I guess I have to start in Detroit in the university.
Yeah.
You went from Detroit to Wisconsin?
Yeah, I grew up in Detroit. I love Detroit. I'm exceptionally involved in Detroit right now. But
yes, you are, I know.
Yeah. Should I talk about that now or push it?
But we can talk about it only because you're not part of their bankruptcy. You're helping them with the marching band.
With everyone that is like putting down Detroit, that's the old Detroit they're talking about. That's been falling apart since the 60s. And almost every mayor has ended up in jail or, you know.
But is that when you left? In the 60s?
I left in, mid to late 60s.
Yeah.
And I went to Wisconsin, then I moved to New York for 7 years, and then I came out here.
So it fell apart when you left?
Yes, it did. I mean, people think it officially started with the 1967 riots.
Oh, so there.
And that certainly didn't help. But it had been, the corruption had started leaking into the government, you know, before that. My thing is I'm making a record video and a feature-length film, not about Detroit, about human spirit as seen through the people of Detroit.
Which gets them moving, right?
It's my whole career. I don't know how to do anything I do. I don't know how to read, notate, or play music, and I've sold, my songs have sold 60 million records.
That's a question. How do you do that?
I don't know how to do anything. I met you. I had this whole art career,
I know.
You know, in the 80s. I did not know until the year 2000 that you mix colors together to get other colors. I am as naive and unschooled as it comes, and that's the spirit I put into my work.
So here's this little angel that makes you do everything?
It's, you know, it's unbelievable. So I wrote, my very first hit was September by Earth, Wind & Fire.
You had a lot of hits after that. I mean,
should I
lots.
name?
Yes.
Should I name a few?
Please. I mean, I know.
Okay, a lot of Earth, Wind & Fire. September, Boogie Wonderland, the whole I Am album, except for a couple songs, a lot of that. Grammy for Beverly Hills Cop.
Right. That I wanted to get in film. You got even an award.
Yeah, and Neutron Dance by the Pointer Sisters. Patti LaBelle, who discovered me actually, Stir It Up.
That's when we met with Patti LaBelle way back then. I mean, I think it was pretty far back.
Yeah,
because Patti was in New York all the time.
Yeah, and she like heard some demos of mine and paid for me to come into the studio and record. But I haven't hit some of the big ones.
But,
yet.
Okay.
Well, let me just throw in then.
Okay, do that.
The Friends theme, TV.
Oh right.
The Color Purple on Broadway.
I want to talk about The Color Purple because you were the only woman who had 2 shows on Broadway at the same time.
Yeah.
But what? And you co-wrote it?
I had never seen a Broadway show before that, by the way.
How could you not? How could you not? You were in New York.
Because I was all about television. I could tell you anything about television you want to know on any channel in any year, television and radio. And I loved film and theater. I just I just missed it until I got the opportunity to do this.
Well, how, and what do you do? You say you have these hit songs. Do you write the lyrics?
No,
do
I
you
write
the music.
Yeah,
you write music.
I write all of it. Yeah, I co-write with people. Hopefully, someone who plays a little better.
I was going to
than
say,
me.
do you play it all?
I play in terms. Sometimes I'll sit down and I'll hear it and I'll go ba-boom, boom, boom. I don't know what I'm playing, and then in the computer I can move the notes around so they actually form chords.
Oh.
Or if someone better, playing is involved, they may lay down like the
and so
bed
you know
of it,
when
and
it's
I
right.
can add to it.
You know when it's right. You know what you get. You know what
Yeah,
you.
and I had one of the very first home studios. I hated being in big recording studios. I hated record companies. I hated television networks. I hated art galleries. I was kind of on the outside.
Leo, on the outside, making good.
Yeah, like it amazes me. Like people go, "How did you get the song, Scott?" I go, "I have no idea."
Well, that's one of my questions. Do you compose on a piano? Do you play an instrument?
I compose on anything from tapping pencils together to electronic keyboards to if you took this lemon and threw it against the wall, I would hear a drum pattern.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So it's in your head. I mean, it's in your head.
Yeah.
And the words, where did the inspiration for the words?
The words, I think most people think of me as a lyricist because I'm associated with so many male groups. I think they just think, oh, well, she must be the word writer.
She's the word person?
I was a journalism major at Wisconsin.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. So was it theater? Was it music? What was it at Wisconsin?
I studied advertising. I was completely enthralled because advertising in the 60s, that's when it like broke open. Oh. And some of the most creative writing was happening in advertising.
But that is really a lead into what you were doing. I mean, I think that's like a background.
I think it helped me be a lyricist for sure because in advertising, you have to figure out, how do you say this much in 3 sentences?
And make it.
Yeah. And so
make
as a
it a hit
songwriter,
record.
Yeah, and you're looking for the hook. What's the line?
Right.
So I feel that training really influenced the songwriting.
So those were the Grammy Awards. Beverly Hills Cop.
Well, Beverly Hills Cop was in '85.
The
At that
Emmy.
point, I thought I was washed up, though. So that was like
you were over.
I thought
your life was over.
Yeah, I thought it was over, which is why I started painting. I was also bored because I was writing. I was getting over 100 songs cut a year, which meant I was a machine.
Lot. Yeah.
And it was boring for me unless I really liked the collaborator. The music wasn't holding the thrill. And when I started painting, it was like, well, I don't know the rules. I don't know the business. And I feel kind of safe because my creativity can go wild because I don't know what I'm doing. Whereas in music, I knew too many of the rules.
You knew the rules. But with painting, the museum you opened was definitely not a painting museum.
No, that was a kitsch museum.
One more thing.
Because that happened. Do you remember the Del Rubio triplets?
Of course.
Okay. So someone showed me.
3 old ladies.
Yes, they were 3 75-year-old triplets.
Right.
They were 75 when it started.
Dressed alike, looked exactly alike.
Blonde, bouffants, little mini skirts,
Right.
go-go boots, 3 out-of-tune guitars, but perfectly in tune with each other.
Right.
Sang out of tune, but in tune with each other. And that fascinated me. So I started managing them.
Oh, you did?
Yes, that's how we all came, to know about them because I saw them and went, "Oh my God, this is great!" And I would take them and do duets. Like I have a duet of them with the Pointer Sisters doing Neutron Dance.
Oh.
I have them with Pet Shop Boys doing. I wrote a song for Pet Shop Boys and Dusty Springfield. What have I done to deserve this? So
how clever! So you were putting that kitsch of them into your
because the people that I was around, and I've written with a lot of people. I've had probably over 1,000 collaborators. That goes from Bob Dylan to God knows who.
Not me.
And, no,
I don't know
but
how
that's
to write.
coming. That's coming.
I don't know how to write.
I don't either. So that makes no difference.
No excuse, huh?
But that's great. But people at the high end, you tend to be very concerned. Where's the next hit coming from?
Right.
Where there's pressure on
Right.
you. Maybe you don't enjoy it like you did when you first started. Whereas at the bottom, the Del Rubio triplets and people that will perform in a hospital. They'll perform. You find you have room. They can stand on top of the toilet. They'll sing there.
And you used to book them into places like that. Yes.
Yeah. And the passion that they felt for the music was unbelievable. So I have always been intrigued with people that, despite maybe not having the resources or the connections, but all they want to do is sing. And so I became really fascinated with people like that.
Could they sing well? Did they sing
They
okay?
didn't sing in tune.
Oh, I see.
But they sang well. They did a spectacular job singing out of tune. That's the most I can say.
But it seems like you've got all these projects and you're always talking about getting passionate about one thing. Do you get bored with them?
Yeah, I get bored. As soon as September came out, my very first hit, I went, I cannot keep doing this, because it was the same thing with the art.
Right.
That started with paintings, and then it was like, well, why don't I combine the music with the art? And so then those motorized, pieces that I did, and then that turned into set design.
Did you do that too?
Yeah, a lot of set design.
And you have some new live shows?
Well,
yes.
I started out wanting to be a singer once I decided I wanted to do
with
music.
That voice?
Yes. My singing voice is as high as my speaking voice is low.
Really?
Yes. I have always
Does it hurt?
Well, because I don't know how to sing right, so eventually
it does
hurts.
hurt.
But yeah. No, I have a really chipmunk high Bee Gee-ish kind of voice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. In fact, even the Bee Gees told me I was an honorary Bee Gee.
That's cool. So the live shows?
I started when I first got my. I had an album out in 1974, and you have to go on tour to support it. And I was terrified on stage. I was uncomfortable. I couldn't remember lyrics. It was horrible. So in the middle of my own song, in the instrumental, I waved goodbye to the band, and I jumped off stage, and I walked down the aisle and left the theater. And that is God's truth.
This is your tour.
That was in 1974. That was the end of that. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll take a year and maybe I can play small clubs and I can figure out how I could be comfortable. And 37 years later,
you're doing
in 2011, I decided that's it, because performing is a way that people can see what you do. Some people thought I was a songwriter. Some people thought I was a painter. Some people thought I was a technology person.
But I thought you were those three. Painter, composer,
and when
songwriter.
I met you, I think I was already starting to combine the music with the art. But I realized that if I were a performer, people could actually see it and word could spread beyond my little circle who knew what I did. So the first show I did was disastrous.
This is in 2011.
2011. Nothing worked. It was.
What were you doing? Standing up like a stand-up?
Yes, and well, for show number one, I did an elaborate set because I'm a set designer. I had all kinds of elaborate, visuals and electronics going on, but just with the piano.
And where was it?
At the El Portal Theater.
Oh, and a big theater.
And don't start me on the El Portal Theater.
But that's a big theater.
But I'd be happy to come and bitch about that for the next segment of the show. But anyway, and that was disastrous. Not one cue worked. There were 500 cues, not one cue worked. It was the worst night of my life, career. And I knew if I did not try and do it again, it's going to be another 40 years, and they can drop the mic into the grave, and maybe I could perform live.
Right.
So then I went and I did it at King in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah, right.
At that point...
Smaller, right? Smaller venue.
But this time I had a 10-piece band, and I had 15 dancers. And not dancers like they're dancing behind me. It was almost like a Cirque du Soleil thing where they pop out of here and there.
Really?
Because what I realized was, I don't have to be afraid anymore because people know my songs. When I was doing it in 1974, who knew the songs? I was weird looking, the songs no one heard of. Now, so I realized I should be doing everything as sing-alongs because I love throwing parties.
Great. Yeah, that's another thing, a party thrower.
Yeah, and I thought if I approach it as a party thrower and not as a singer-songwriter, then I'll have fun on stage.
And you did.
Yes, so we like play bingo and we have thrift shop auctions and then sing-alongs to all of the hit songs. So just rounding it back and coming to Detroit, I thought, what if I write a song for the city, very much in the spirit of September, you know, my Earth, Wind, and Fire song, because that's one of the happiest songs. Buddy, I say, do you remember? You know, you would know it.
Of course. It's a biggie.
It's as big today as it was then.
I know. Are you still living off the royalties?
Well, yes, royalties.
Another story?
Another story entirely.
Another interview.
But, I mean, if you have to write a song, September's a good one to write.
That's fantastic, yeah.
So I thought if I write something in that spirit and go to Detroit, I'm just going to go stand on street corners and I'm going to grab 10 people and I'm going to teach them the chorus and they're going to sing it and we record it. So what ended up happening is we went to Detroit this last September. I had 7 cameras and a whole recording rig. And we in 50 different locations. It was everything from you know, a football field to a high school gym to delicatessens. Yeah, and we would get the groups of people so they knew it was happening. We'd teach them the song on the spot, record them live.
Did.
Yeah, we were in and out in like an hour.
But you were conducting?
Yes, yes.
And you conducted the marching band?
Yes, at University of Wisconsin, but I can't read music.
So I'm telling you, here we are.
Yeah.
Our time is up.
Yes.
But you're a good talker.
Thank you.
And did
As are you.
And did we covered most of it.
We covered a lot. We didn't cover all of it, but we covered a lot.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Really, really.
Detroit.
Yes.
All
and
right.
thanks. We'll be right back with Walter Dominguez. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping here at the Hollywood Museum on Highland Avenue in the heart of Hollywood. And my guest is filmmaker, producer Walter Dominguez, who was born in Santa Paula and raised in Pasadena. He graduated from Occidental College with a Bachelor of Arts in History. And he worked as a director, assistant director, actor, and you worked with such great people. Stanley Kramer, Robert Weiss, Frank Perry, the cream of the crop.
Yes, indeed.
How did you meet all those people, and what were you doing?
Well, you know, I've been a very blessed and very lucky man throughout my life. Everybody has rough spots, but I've had plenty of blessings. And one of the big breaks was graduating from college. Dick Van Dyke came to see a show that I was in the cast.
In Occidental or after
Occidental.
that?
His son was in the cast, Chris.
Oh.
And so anyway, he came backstage and he encouraged me to continue on. And just a week later, I received an invitation to submit to the Directors Guild training program.
Right.
And I was admitted. And one of my very first assignment was to work under Robert Wise as he was filming Andromeda Strain at Universal. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. A top director, a master of film.
And right out of school.
Right out of school.
And then, did you want to be a director?
I'd always loved playing at being a director as a kid.
Because you were acting, really, when they found you.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So I think in my heart, I always wanted to be a director.
Ah. So, and then you went on to the rest of those great directors?
I worked with these other wonderful directors, Stanley Kramer on Oklahoma Crude, Frank Perry Play It As It Lays, and other things we did at Universal and for independent films.
How'd you find the difference with independent films and with the studio system?
Well, it was also a matter of scale. The independents had to work on a much smaller scale with a leaner crew. There were advantages in terms of my work as an assistant director to both. And in the independents, I got to do more and be more intimately involved with different departments. On the big features like Andromeda Strain, there were hundreds of people in the staff and crew.
Did you feel like you got lost in that, as opposed to being more of a part of it as an independent?
A little bit, mainly because I was new to the
Yeah,
whole system.
you were young,
so,
too.
Yeah, I was definitely young.
Well, the other thing, talking about this experience that you got with the independent films, I'm sure was very helpful to your new project.
Yes.
Must have helped you a lot.
Immensely.
But before we get to your new film, which is called Weaving the Past, A Journey of Discovery, let's go back, because you have these historic connections to California.
Yes.
Even though born in Santa Paula, but your family goes way back.
Yes, my grandfather came here in 1904, and so our family is rooted here for over a century in 10 years, and we have an extensive family, and the film, Weaving the Past Journey of Discovery, really delves into the family and into especially my grandfather, who came in 1904, to learn about how he got here.
Did you get to meet your grandfather?
I did. I was blessed. He was alive for the first 23 years of my life.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's great.
He was a huge influence on my life.
And what was he doing? And why was it such an influence?
He was a Mexican Methodist minister. He was born in Mexico and came to the United States, and through the help of a group of missionaries.
I was going to say, because that's kind of like not in keeping with the Mexican tradition of Catholicism.
Yes.
But the missionaries came in at certain times.
Yes. Well, he was found downtown in the parks. He had become homeless. He was an alcoholic.
Really?
He was sick with lung disease. He was a young man.
You're kidding.
And he befriended a young missionary who was born in Finland, but came to the United States, a Methodist, and so through that connection, he was brought to health, he was given an education, he was illiterate at the time.
Wow.
And his whole life changed around, and within 5 years, he was already doing missionary work himself, and then became a fully ordained minister and had a career for over 50 years.
Wow.
Here.
So that's what you learned. Did you learn that from him, or did you have to do some detective work?
I had to do a lot of detective work, though. He was a great storyteller. And I spent a lot of hours with him driving around Southern California and Arizona, where he had churches and missions and tons of friends.
Oh, fantastic.
So I heard a lot of stories, but he wouldn't talk about his early life, the life before he became a missionary or was converted.
In Mexico then, right?
Yes. It was a very painful and very dark period in his life, difficult.
Wow.
And so when he died, he left behind a photograph of a young man that he said this was his best friend in that early life, and that's all we knew, really, other than this young man went on to become famous in Mexico as a Mexican revolutionary.
Wow, really?
So that led me, it piqued my curiosity.
Really?
I was on fire with, I also had, I let my grandfather down when he was dying. I couldn't face being with him when he was dying. It was too traumatic for me. But I hid. I wouldn't come, and he was calling for me. So making this film was an act of redemption as well.
How long did it take you to make the film?
All told, 13 years.
And what were you doing during this 13 years?
Traveling throughout the Southwest, looking for people who knew him, one person leading me to the next, traveling down to Mexico on several trips, spending a lot of time. Going into photo archives and museums and meeting historians. And
you worked with your wife, who's an actress, Shelley Morrison, and she's producing it?
Yes.
Did she keep a tight rein on you?
She did when she needed to.
Oh, I see.
But also she was extremely, extremely supportive and generous. A wonderful, really an ideal executive producer. I think it was a match made in heaven for as far as a filmmaker goes.
And then how did you decide to tell the story? How is the story told?
Well, we decided to start documenting my research. At first it became just let's document and videotape the people I meet and record their conversations and what I encountered. Pretty soon I began to realize this really could make a fascinating documentary.
Oh, I see.
But then as we went to, there were periods of his life that I felt really needed to be dramatized a little bit because they were so amazing. So we also embarked on reenactments. We did a series of reenactments.
Oh, you did?
I cast family members as well as professional actors.
Oh.
And because I felt that it was important for our family to have a visceral connection with our past.
That's very interesting.
We went to the costume company here in the Valley that outfits all the Westerns.
But they weren't actors at all.
No.
And did you have to direct them?
No, it was a little bit, but it was amazing how much talent is in so many people, and they really connected with the characters they were portraying.
Maybe that's why, because it was family, right? And they would think of what, did you give them lines and you wrote the lines?
We to avoid awkwardness, we just did it with gestures and pantomime and all that, and it works very effectively because we intercut between that and interviews and historical footage, and so it moves along. It's very lively.
Yeah, that's great. You worked with the LAPD at one time. Did working there help you
it did.
find these things?
Well, I think, yes, you're
or
right.
discover?
Yeah, that's a good connection there.
Discovery?
That's right. I was a volunteer, and I worked in the detective division
Yeah.
at Wilshire Station. And yes, I saw them at work trying to track down things and find things and uncover things, and I think that was inspirational. And I thank you for making that connection because I hadn't really thought of that.
I was thinking about that. And the other thing is you studied, there was like a shift in your career with Native American studies and writing about that. Did that also help lead you to where you were going?
Yes, Joan, enormously, and thank you for bringing that thread into it, because spirituality, without getting preachy and,
But that's what I felt.
And it's a very important part of the film. It's a very important part of our lives, and it took me in a whole new different direction.
There was a different path.
Yes.
But it was also the spiritual path from a different point of view, because your father was a Methodist, not a part of the
traditional
Catholic, but also not part of the Americana.
Yeah.
The native Indians, the natives.
He was partly native in Mexico, of a tribe that doesn't exist anymore. It's all blended in with the population. But we deliberately asked for help from our ancestors who already had crossed over, of course, beginning with my grandfather.
Yeah, so that was... And that's what happens, I think, once you believe so much like that.
And things happen.
And things happen.
Absolutely.
We're going to leave that to the screen. We'll have to go and see it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Walter.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles today. Keep writing to JAQUINN1@AOL.com. See you next time.